All right, thanks everyone. We're gonna get started. My name is Miha Laguerre. I'm the Fellowship and Research Coordinator, and I'm here with my colleague, Catherine Cordier. Okay, she's the Extension and Program Analyst, and we're part of the Science Integration team. Thanks for taking the time to be on this webinar today. So we're gonna go through the State Fellowship Program. We will give you a background about California Sea Grant and the Sea Grant Network for those who aren't as familiar with who we are and what we do, followed by the State Fellowship, and then application tips. And this presentation should take about 30 minutes, so we want to leave plenty of time for you to ask any questions, and then we'll wrap up. So before we dive in, a few webinar guidelines. So currently you all are muted during this whole presentation. And so if you have any questions, please use the chat dialog, which is preferred, or you can unmute yourself by pressing *6 on your phone. And then please make sure to mute yourself again, since we have several people on this webinar. So we are currently recording this presentation, and this will be available on our website later today or tomorrow. And if you have very specific questions, please reserve them and email sgproposal@ucsd.edu, and we will get back to you. So a little bit of background information regarding California Sea Grant and the National Sea Grant Network. So the Sea Grant Network started with the National Sea Grant College and Program Act of 1966. And so this authorized establishment and operation of Sea Grant College programs. And it is to initiate and support programs of research, extension, education, and workforce development and communication. So we are one of 33 Sea Grant programs. California Sea Grant, we're unique in the sense that we actually have 2 Sea Grant programs within our state. So we are based in La Jolla at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego, and then our sister Sea Grant program is at the University of Southern California. So we have multiple resources in addition to these fellowship opportunities. So we have grants, and so we receive funding from NOAA, and we give out research grants. We have complete grant administration services, so this includes proposal solicitation and review, and post-award fiscal administration. In addition to that, we have a network of extension specialists throughout California, and they're dedicated to impartial research and outreach for coastal stakeholders. Furthermore, we have a whole media and library services, and this encompasses the whole nationwide Sea Grant network. And then this also feeds into this connection that we have of a nationwide Sea Grant network of experts and partners. So this Sea Grant Fellowship, this is one of several that we offer at our program, and this really focuses on our workforce development goal to increase research and education opportunities for undergraduate and graduate students. And the idea behind this is to educate the next generation of marine and coastal scientists and policy makers, not markers. Anyways, so this state fellowship program is based on our Canals Fellowship. So for those that aren't familiar with the Canals Fellowship, this is also a one-year fellowship based out in Washington, D.C. for 1 year. So fellows are placed in the executive or legislative branch, and it provides also a 1-year fellowship opportunity. So this fellowship program, you would be matched with a federal, state, or municipal agency to learn about and work on implementation of marine policy and management in California. So our program started in 1988, and since then we've supported 207 state fellows. So this year, we currently have 23 state fellows, and you can tell that from about 2013, 2014, we've had a gradual increase in fellowships. And we'll talk more about this year's opportunity and the various host agencies further down the line. So our state fellowship program, so if you're interested in applying and becoming a state fellow, the expectation is that you are more than students or interns. You are highly motivated and talented recent graduate students with a PhD, master's, or JD that focuses on marine or aquatic related fields. You have and will contribute professional contributions to the office, and you're capable of working alongside state and federal partners and excited to learn about and help with the process of policymaking and resource management. So an example of this is, the emphasizing the idea that you're not just a student or an intern. You have really the opportunity to learn about the, public process and making resource management decisions and whatnot. But one a few examples I wanted to share was that in our 2017 state fellow at the State Lands Commission, she helped draft and update California or the Commission's environmental justice policy. So these fellows, even the current fellow, the 2019 and the 2018 fellow, also really spearheaded the efforts to develop and implement the environmental justice policy within the State Lands Commission. And so not only did they develop this, they also developed a training and they presented this to all the State Lands Commission staff as well as the Coastal Commission staff. And you also have kind of the ability to, depending on the host agencies, kind of develop your own projects. And so another example is that last year, or in 2018, the State Water Resources Control Board fellow developed and implemented a pilot project with the city of West Sacramento to determine baseline trash loads using GoPros and machine learning. So he had the skill set and the experience and also the interest to do this. And so he pitched this idea, and it's currently a full-fledged project. And so something that you might be curious about as you are thinking about applying for this fellowship, why apply for this fellowship? Where might I end up afterwards? So this is a great professional development educational opportunity. And as you can see that, a lot of the fellows do end up in really great places. Some of them end up getting hired by their host agency or a sister agency. So you can see that many of our fellows do end up working for the government. Others go back to academia. We've had folks go into consulting or the private sector, as well as foundations and nonprofits. So at this point, do folks have any questions? Feel free to press *6 to unmute yourself or type in the chat dialogue. So I'll give it a few minutes. Okay, seeing that there isn't any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine to give you a little bit more overview about the actual fellowship.
Hi, everyone. So, see, here is our list of sorry about that. I don't know what that echoey noise was, but so here's our part of our list of our 2020 host agencies. And Miho had on a previous slide kind of showed you a graph of the trajectory of how each year we've had more and more positions. So this current cohort, there are 23 the current cohort, there are 23, and then this next coming 2020 cohort year will have 28 positions. And so the ones on this slide that are bolded are our new host agencies this year. So the California Energy Commission, the California Department of Transportation, Environmental Engineering, Water Quality and Special Projects Department, NOAA's Office of Coastal Management, are new host agencies. And so you'll see a lot of repeats. There are many hosts that have multiple fellows. So a particular agency could have anywhere from 1 to 4 positions available. So California Sea Grant administers $52,380 per state fellow. And so this is kind of a breakdown of where that money goes. And so about $3,900 per month is the stipend and living expenses. So, rent, anything else you might need. And then a little more than $3,000 to cover health insurance reimbursement. And then there's also $2,400 to cover travel and professional development. And so this is inclusive of the matching workshop, which we'll get into a little bit more later, but that is the process that happens after we select finalists from reviewing applications and interviewing them. Um, so eligibility, applications may be submitted by a graduate student close to completing his or her degree. In MIHO, whenever, it could be a master's, PhD program, or a JD, and then in any kind of field related to conservation, resource management, protection, policy or law, and being kind of like coastal environment and resources that would have an impact on the marine systems of California. And so typically, the positions will start anywhere from December to March. And so we really ask that people need to have all of their degree requirements finished by then. I know a lot of people finish in June, but that's just kind of too late for fellows to start. So this is kind of an example of our timeline. The second we put or we already have the applications up. So September 2nd, they will be due, and submitting the EC Grant online portal. We'll have most of September for Miho and I and some of our other staff members to review all the applications and then select finalists. And from this selection round, we'll choose people who will either have, depending on their location, an in-person or a Skype interview. And then from then on, we will select people for a mandatory matching workshop that's held in Sacramento. And this year, that will be the 29th to the 30th. And we can talk more about the matching workshop later for those of you who have questions, but it's basically an opportunity for you to meet all the host agencies and any staff that you might be working with that they decide to bring along. And it's a chance for them to get to know you, for you to ask questions about the positions. And so then after our 2-day matching workshop, the next week is kind of a follow-up finalist interviews. And so these are over the phone or Skype interviews that you will have with your top choices of positions you would like to be considered for. And then around November 13th, we will announce who is matched with which position. And Miho and I are the ones that will be doing the matching, and we'll reach out, and then assuming that the prospective finalist accepts the offer, then we'll go forward. And then, as I said before, anywhere from January to March, the fellowship will begin. And this is an agreement that you'll reach with your supervisor, just kind of based on their need and also your schedule. So talking a little bit about the application requirements, we'd like you to submit a CV. Please don't submit more than 2 pages because we won't read anything after the second page. We would hate for important stuff to get cut off. We ask for a personal education and career goal statement of 1,000 words or less, 2 letters of recommendation, and this can be from your faculty advisor or somebody who supervised you on a job, and then copies of your undergraduate and graduate student transcripts, and these can be unofficial transcripts. So just some points on application tips. We really want you to be holistic in your consideration of your application. One part is not necessarily more important than the other, and we really look at all of these pieces together when we're considering who we want to interview and who will become a finalist. So really spend a lot of time considering who you want to have write your letters of recommendation, make sure that you spend time really honing in your CV to reflect what you want us to see, and then spend some time on your personal statement to make sure it really reflects why you're interested in this position and what you want to get out of it. We have some evaluation criteria. So we look at academic ability, your communication skills. We want diversity and then appropriateness of your academic background. So meaning you have the relevant knowledge and skill set that you'll need to succeed in a position with us. You have career and education goals that we feel like can be met with this fellowship and that we could then help you, succeed in a job afterwards. Any additional qualifying experience, and then of course the support from your letters of reference. Right, so a little bit more about the matching workshop. So this is mandatory. So unfortunately, if a finalist is not able to attend, we really can't schedule a makeup for this. And keep in mind that while some of you might, when you're going through the host positions, have found one that you're really set on, we cannot guarantee that you will be placed with a specific host. So kind of going into this process with an open mind and, realizing that this is a learning experience is a great perspective to have. And then another note, please do not reach out to the host agencies anytime going forward before the matching workshop, and this includes current fellows. So just a little more on evaluation. These are just kind of really quick. You can go ahead and read these, some bullet points that we look for and kind of keep in the back of our mind when we're reviewing applications. You know, I'm sure a lot of you with grad school and other jobs have had a lot of experience writing these, so it's, you know, kind of the same deal. A little more on evaluation. This is a big one, acronyms defined. I know we kind of get caught up in the ABC acronym soup, but just really making sure that if you have an acronym, you've defined it, or else Miho and I take to Google to look up things and we don't always end up on the right one. So that's nice to not have to do. Yeah, and then I would like to stress again, really consider who you want the people to write your letter of recommendation are. I know for some master's programs, it can be particularly hard if you're doing an accelerated program that is a year or a year and a half. But just really make sure that you choose somebody that not only knows you as a person, but knows you as a student, kind of can speak to your work ethic, and also just any past projects and skills that you've acquired. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask if anybody has any other questions. You can use the chat box or dial *6.
Hi, yeah, this is Abby Ryder from SDSU. So in the initial application packet, we're not indicating anywhere what agency we're interested in. That would all happen at the matching meeting if we're selected to attend that.
So in the past, some people who've applied for the fellowship have mentioned it in their personal statement, which is completely fine. If that's something you want to do, you can do that. But we just want to let everyone know that the application materials that we receive, we also give to the host agencies. And so, you know, if you specifically say, I want to work with agency X, just keep in mind that every other agency you interview with will also read that, so you kind of don't want to ruin your chances. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we have a question to the chat. That's how many applications do you typically receive each year? Last year, we received 74 applications for 23 spots. It's kind of, you know, just like the number of positions we've had, the number of applications goes up every year. So I would say it would be realistic for us to think we might receive definitely more than 74 this year. We have another question. The agencies seem to have pretty different positions, but the first screening is done by the Sea Grant group. Are you looking for someone who can do any of the jobs at any of the agencies?
So thanks, Julia, for your question. So as we're going through the applications, we never review an applicant and be like, oh, this person might be good for the Coastal Commission or something like that. We select it based on that criteria that Catherine just presented. And so we do, there's folks that like want to work for NOAA and that's their career goal, and we totally respect that. And so if that's the case, we've seen applicants like that. On the other hand, we've seen applicants who really have an open mind and maybe want to try a different, working in a different environment. So getting to know, the Delta ecosystem a little bit better. And so we encourage folks to have an open perspective as they're applying and as they're going through the matching process. But yeah, the evaluation criteria that were presented, that's what we base it off of. Does that help?
Yeah, so yeah, just to hone in on that again, I think when Miho and I are doing our review, we're just looking for people who are qualified, so they meet the education requirements, they're in good academic standing. We look at their letters of recommendation and then evaluate their personal statement, but we're not doing a side-by-side comparison of the applicants and the positions. That can be done during the matching workshop, but that's not for us to decide. All right, Rachel, we just got your question. As someone who will be applying in future years, can you speak to what sorts of extracurricular activities have made applications stand out?
I would say that things that, for this fellowship, keep in mind that we don't need to see direct experience in marine policy or management. What we want to see is a demonstrated interest. So just because you don't have the coursework or the internship, the job in marine or policy or management, don't worry about that. But I think that, if extracurricular activities that have stood out, again, volunteering or interning, being active in your academic community. And so, chairing something or being a president of your, community organization or something like that. I think that helps, showing like leadership experience as well as like communication. What else would you say?
Something that I've seen, which is not necessary and not relevant to everyone's application, but quite a few people who submit applications, some part of their graduate thesis has been involved in interdisciplinary science, specifically policy and management. And so they've had opportunities to interface with resource managers or local policymakers. And so that's not to say if you don't have that experience, you're at a disadvantage, but if you do have that, or, if you're thinking of applying for this fellowship in a couple years, and this is something that you could add to your project, that's always great to see, because again, that shows that you have an interest in, taking your science and applying it to policy and management. We got a question from Jeremy. Do fellows typically join a specific project or task at an agency, or do they tend to do a variety of work? I would say that on the whole, they tend to do a variety of work. This is very specific from host to host and even position to position. There are quite a few agencies that will have their fellow do kind of general things. They're very busy and they have a variety of projects that people can jump on. Some agencies that are larger, have a little more room for fellows to kind of be creative. And sometimes we have people who are able to actually create their own project based off of, their interests and how those align with their host agencies. We have people who work on management plans and revising strategic plans for an agency. Some of that is dependent on timing. But in the end, all the fellows walk away with something that they can, call their own and take ownership of.
And so when we talk with the host agencies, we recommend them to have projects that are long-term as well as short-term in mind. And so again, like Catherine mentioned, the project that you can personally have ownership over, and you can say like, I did the project management, I coordinated, I led a workshop. And so you have that in your CV after your fellowship, things that, different skill sets that maybe you want to work on during that year. We tell the host agencies to be very open about that. And so as you start your fellowship, within the first couple months, we will ask you to develop a mentorship plan with your supervisor. And so you'll sit down and kind of hash out what your year would look like. And so that's kind of the opportunity to really, it's a two-way conversation. It's like the host agency obviously has projects that need to get done, and that's why they want a fellow, but they also understand that this is a professional development opportunity, and you also have skill sets and, desires that you want to accomplish during this year. And then also something to note is that this year, and I don't know if you saw it as you read the application, but a portion of your fellowship will be directly related to Sea Grant, the extension program. And so this is where you'll have a little bit of flexibility as well as to kind of see what the extension specialists are working on and see if they align with your host agency needs, or if there's something that you want to branch out of that you're interested in. You'll have the opportunity to do that as well. So hopefully that helps answer your question, Jeremy.
We have another question. Molly, if we are selected to attend the matching workshop, are we committing to whatever placement we receive? So no, if you're selected to attend the matching workshop and you confirm with us that you would like to attend the matching workshop, and you are placed with a particular host for a position, we will let you know where you've been matched with, and then we give you a chunk of time to decide whether or not you want to accept that placement. So you attending the workshop and getting placed isn't kind of the end, the sealed deal. We give you an opportunity to consider it, and then get back to us.
Yeah, and then just one thing to note is that for this matching workshop, and if folks are familiar with Canal, so our process is that we'll have more finalists than fellowship opportunities. So this year, looking at 28 fellowship opportunities, we'll probably invite about 30, 31 people to attend the matching workshop. And so at the end of the day, you aren't guaranteed a fellowship just because you were invited to the matching workshop. So keep that in mind. And then Jeremy, you said, how much do fellows interact with each other during the year?
So it kind of depends on where your agency is located. A lot of our hosts are located either in the Sacramento area or the San Francisco Bay Area. And so, whether that's a function of them actually working at the same agency. So for example, the Delta Stewardship Council has 4 positions. So obviously those 4 fellows work very closely together. Or, you might happen to live or to work next door to somebody else who's in a fellowship. So that part is very location specific, but we do have a couple of opportunities throughout the year for everyone to come together. We have a state fellows retreat every year, and so that's in a different location, and everybody kind of comes together to talk about what they've been working on for their project, which is a great opportunity for people who, maybe the San Diego fellows and the Eureka Humboldt area fellows are very far from each other, but it gives them an opportunity to get together. And outside of that, we've seen a lot of the fellows kind of take their own initiative and coordinate amongst each other to do either travel together for conferences. We have a lot of people that go to CHOW in Washington, D.C., but also kind of outside of work just to coordinate like camping trips together.
So in addition to that one in-person meeting, we'll have either, depending on when the in-person meeting is, we'll have at least 1 or 2 update webinars where all the fellows will come together and give updates about what they've been working on. Any other questions?
Okay, cool. So if there are no more questions, if you have additional questions, you can shoot an email to the SG proposal account and let us know. The application, just to remind you, is due September 2nd by 5 p.m. and that is a hard close date. So make sure you get all of your application materials in before that. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Great. And so this webinar will be presented, or it's recorded, and so it'll be posted on our website. And then please keep in mind that this fellowship opportunity, you have to submit it through our online submission portal called EC Grant. And so if you haven't registered, you'll need to do that, and make sure you kind of start working on your application, get your materials in a few days prior, I would recommend, because at 5 p.m. it does just cut off. And so even if you're a minute late, unfortunately, the system just shuts down and you won't be able to submit your application. So it looks like there is one more question that just came in. Does that include letters of recommendation in EC Grant, I'm guessing? So yes, there is an interface for you to identify your letter writer, and then also submit a request to that letter writer, and then they would get a separate email, and they would just upload the letter, and then it would show up in the EC Grant portal for us. So we prefer that you use that method, but if you're having any issues, then you can also submit it to the SG proposal alias.
Yeah, and so we would need the referees to send the letters to us directly. We can't have you guys sending them to us. And yeah, the letters of rec do need to also be in on September 2nd, just so we can get started with the review process. All right, fantastic. So just to remind everyone again, this webinar will be posting a recording online. So if you came in late or missed anything, feel free to go back and catch up.
Great, and thanks so much for taking the time, and we look forward to receiving your applications.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks.